Alright, hello everyone, Adrenaluke here. At the time of me recording this video, Nürburgring Nordschleife has been released on Assetto Corsa Competizione for console for 2 days now. I couldn't do crossplay multiplayer on the opening day because for whatever reason it was not working on Xbox. But the Xbox players were fixed and they were able to join crossplay servers today. So this is the earliest day we could jump in and do some crossplay multiplayer with the console players. We've got to enjoy it on PC. Now here it is on console. It's big news, guys. Big news for sim racing in general. Nürburgring Nordschleife is here on console. Now I wanted to take this opportunity to do last to first challenges. That means I do not qualify and I start all the way from the back and I see how far I can work my way up. This is a lot of carnage and you guys are gonna want to see this. And here we are playing Assetto Corsa Competizione on the PlayStation 5 again. It feels very weird to say that, but it feels very good. You guys, if you don't know, I got my roots on PlayStation 5. I was a console sim racer before I got a gaming PC. So it's good to be back. It is so good to be back. It feels very different to PC though in some ways, especially the force feedback, so I did have to get used to it again. But at the same time, honestly, it feels very similar to PC, to be honest, apart from a few differences. Like I said, the force feedback feels a little different. One thing I do want to point out, if you look on the bottom left of the screen, some of the icons on the leaderboard are PlayStation logos, and then some of the other icons are globe icons. Those mean that they are Xbox players. Now, people that are playing on Xbox, is probably the other way around for them. They probably do see us as PlayStation players as the globe icon, and they probably see the Xbox icon for them. Okay, so here we go. You can see we're just about to kick off the race. It's not a full formation lap because that would take forever at the Nordschleife given how huge this track is. Now, pretty much all of us are in a GT3 car. I'm in the Lamborghini GT3 car. But like I said in the intro, I'm doing a last to first challenge. So I'm dropping back. I'm just letting everyone get ahead of me. And there, as you can see, there's nobody behind me. And we're about to go green flag. I know there's probably going to be carnage at turn 1, so the green flag is waving, the race has just kicked off, somebody already got a drive-through penalty for speeding before the green flag and gaining some positions there. So I'm just short shifting all the way into 6th gear, not carrying much speed because I want to be very careful coming into turn 1 up here because I'm not sure if there's going to be carnage. So here we go, I'm approaching very cautiously and it looks like it's not that bad actually, given a public lobby. You know, these are open to everybody. Oh, we got a little crash up there, though, so I have to go around that. But that's not that bad. There's only 2 people that crash. There's only 2 people that crash, so we're already carrying on. And I'm being calm because that isn't as much carnage as I expected, to be honest. These public lobbies can normally be so much carnage. So that's already, what, 2 people that have passed. We're already in, it says 27th place. And we only passed, what, 3 corners now? So we're off to a very good start. But this is going to be still a challenge. We got 29 minutes. That's not a very long time to climb all the way up. So my goal realistically here is not necessarily to get a first place finish, but at the very least, if I can land a podium finish, we will be golden. I have to be careful because you don't know the skill range of all these people. This is not skill-based matchmaking. This is open to everybody. So you see up here, these people are way off pace. These people don't quite know how to take the corners as fast as you could. So instead of me approaching them as aggressively as I would in a server where everyone is at the same skill range, you can see I'm approaching them cautiously because I don't know what to expect. And speaking of that, I did not want to be side by side with the Ferrari at the chicane, so I did fall back. Things can get pretty messy at the chicane. It is a hot spot for wrecks to occur, and we don't quite know how the Ferrari will be able to handle being side by side, which is evident up here as he takes himself out, turning right across is not even there, just did a pit maneuver on himself. And so I think it was a good thing that I fell back, heading towards the chicane back there. I can only imagine how that would have ended up if I tried to approach the chicane side by side, but I'm lucky that he turned into us in such a way that it only took himself out and didn't really affect us that much. But that is another position gained, bringing us one step closer to that goal of a podium finish coming from last place. And with this BMW head, I am wanting to stay close behind him, but not too close to where I can't avoid a wreck if one occurs. Which, speaking of that, we have a spinning Ferrari ahead, and I had to go one wheel on the grass to avoid that one. But we made it through in one piece, and so far things are going not that bad, which is shocking, and I was expecting a lot worse going in a public lobby on console. I haven't driven any public lobbies on console on ACC in quite a long time, but I do remember them being lots of carnage, and speaking of that, we've been full throttle for a very long time, folks, and you guess it, a heavy braking zone right here over the crest, and 2 cars ahead did not brake in time, as evident of them being in the sand. The Aston Martin ahead has a terrible rejoin, cuts off the blue BMW, which slows him way down, as we see here, giving us a grand total of 3 freebies. Ding, 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 ding. It's a bonus round, folks. So we're doing pretty good so far, surprisingly. I was expecting us to have many deaths. But speaking of that, Pete the Marshal that was waving the yellow flag, this is a hot spot for wrecks to occur. I didn't know if the yellow flag was because of this turn right here. So I slowed way down myself, and I didn't quite know what to expect coming up to that turn. I'm actually shocked that we all made it through that turn, given a public lobby. I genuinely was expecting that sharp left to be lots of carnage. Not people that aren't knowledgeable in this track don't expect it. It catches them off guard. I go for a move up here on that BMW. There's a slight touch. I tried to squeeze my way past, but watch this up here. He doesn't give me any room. Turns all the way across the track. Pit maneuvers my car. I couldn't go any further to the left. And of course, he doesn't wait after the contact. He just continues on. Now we are behind that blue BMW that was a freebie to us earlier, and now we became a freebie to him. And so that just lost us a position, and now we did lose a lot of ground. We only lost 1 position, but we lost a ton of ground. Now, if you guys remember that Aston Martin that was in the sand earlier, watch down here. Here he is again at sliding backwards, but thankfully for us, he was up against the wall flush and not getting in our way. So we didn't lose much time getting around him. Now we've got to make up that ground we lost. And you can see the blue BMW ahead isn't quite as fast as us, especially up here. You see how quickly we're getting behind him. We're going to lose a lot of time if we don't get around him fast. And there is a sharp right-hand turn coming up here, and I predict that he's going to brake too early for it because he does seem a little inexperienced at this track. So I don't want to stay behind him. I get to the side of him, and I did predict correctly that he brakes too early, so I stay hugging the inside all the way across on the power nice and early on the way out. And you can see on the rearview mirror just how quickly we were pulling away from him, so nicely done there. But now it's eyes front and eyes forwards. I don't want to be watching the rearview mirror, I'm watching ahead. And speaking of ahead, the next car that is ahead of us is that same white BMW that turned across the entire track, taking us out with a pit maneuver earlier. So I am pretty frustrated with this guy, and I know that I do have to exercise caution getting around him, and I am worried that he might take us out a second time. So I'm just hoping that when I get to the side of him this time, things will go differently. And you are supposed to take this flat right here. It looks like he does lift, and the Ferrari also lifted, and they both go wide up here, which lets me sneak my nose to the inside of the BMW. I'm to the side of him again, but this time we make it through safe. Would you believe it? And I'm keeping the pressure on the Ferrari in front of me, and he does feel that pressure as he carries too much speed under the carousel, and he got spat out of the carousel. I stay on the carousel, and that makes him fall way behind. You cannot get spat out of that carousel. Look in that rearview mirror there. I pulled ahead of him so quickly. You have to stay on that carousel if you want to keep up. So now we are way ahead of both of them, and thank God I got around that BMW safely. Look ahead, Teal Ferrari into the wall, sliding to the right, I go left. That was a scary moment. That was a brown flag if I've ever seen one. Now skipping just a little bit ahead, a BMW has also binned it. He vanishes into thin air. We have a rage quit. Look, I can understand it though. This is very frustrating. It is without a doubt the most brutally challenging racetrack on Earth. They are dropping like flies. The Aston Martin was off. He rejoins. Lime Porsche gets around him. Now we're behind him. He could have picked up a lot of damage. We don't know how hard he smacked that barrier. We're gonna have to be careful because we don't know how much that damage has slowed him down. It could be a little bit of damage or a lot. We are approaching a series of fast-paced sweeping turns coming up, and the last thing we want to do is brake to avoid a wreck during those turns. Look to the right, you see a car in the grass, but look ahead now. Porsche fishtailing, I'm braking hard, losing control, collecting into the Porsche, and you can see my frustration in my face after that one. Sudden evasive braking was the last thing I wanted to do in that fast-paced turn. It unsettled the car, nothing I could do at that point. Now skipping ahead to the end of the first lap finally, we are getting a slipstream draft on that McLaren ahead, so we easily get around him. We are coming towards the end of an almost 2-mile long straight, and you're gaining so much speed that it can catch you off guard if you're not knowledgeable on the track at the end where you have to slow down. So 2 cars ahead do not slow down in time, and you see them smash into the wall. So that's a double freebie, and we end up passing both of them. You can see the red and white Ferrari had alignment issues, wobbling back and forth. You've got to be able to slow down in time after that straight. Now on to lap 2. P11 in the 909 car was 10 seconds ahead of me, but he bended. As you see, he was off to the side there. So that was a free overtake. And now I just got to gain on P10, who at the time is 6 seconds ahead, but that gap is rapidly closing, and you can already see his car. In fact, now it's a 3-second gap. He's in the grass, and we get around him easily. 3 minutes later, I catch up to the number 47 Aston Martin again, and seeing this car gave me PTSD. What was I saying again? Oh, right. Sorry, I had a moment there. Here we are behind him yet again. He gets spat out of the carousel, but joins back onto it. He does get a better exit than me on the way out. I didn't want to trail too close behind yet. This one ended up being a fun chase. I'm using all the track, trying to maximize my racing line, and stay close enough behind him that he feels pressure. The more I keep him under pressure, the more likely he is to slip up. And that makes him busy watching his rearview mirror when he should be looking ahead. Watch this. You notice his entry's really tight, goes over the curb, and I jump on that, breathing down his neck, capitalizing on his mistake, really putting the pressure on him now. And he's defending the corners early on, claiming the inside early, and I know he's definitely feeling under pressure now, so he's going to be watching his rearview mirror a lot, and I can really cause him to make a mistake now. It takes way too much curb there, into the sand, we get around him there. That's the thing, guys, you don't always have to make a move around them. If you put enough pressure on them, that can do the work for you. Not every driver is going to have what it takes to perform well under pressure. Now on to the end of the lap. Take a look on the track map. You see that yellow dot that stopped moving? All the other dots are catching up to it and it's still not moving. Well, that's the Porsche that smacked the barrier because it didn't slow down in time at the end of this long straight. You saw the other 2 cars do that on lap 1. Now on this lap, another one bites the dust. And you're going to see him enter pit lane right up there on the right. He's got to fix the car, but lucky for him, pit lane was right around the corner, quite literally. But in all seriousness, he's lucky to have the wreck right next to pit lane rather than 3 minutes into an 8-minute lap. This track is massive. Braking before turn 1 to kick off lap 3, the McLaren in front went super deep, but if you saw in the rear view behind me, that number 47 Aston Martin nearly murdered us at turn 1, but thankfully he turned away from us to avoid wiping us out completely. He must have missed his braking point. Skipping ahead, the McLaren in front is substantially slower than we are. That not only allows the Porsche behind to get right on our tail, it's also making us lose time we could be using to gain on the cars further ahead. But he does spin right there, so that thankfully allows us to get past him in no time. Now with a clear track ahead of us, I thought we would pull away from the Porsche easily. But when I speed up the footage here, you can see that is not the case. We are not losing this guy easily, and there's a back marker ahead. That McLaren, the number 720 car ahead of us, right there, he is under a blue flag. He is 1 lap behind us, and that's making me a little nervous. I'm already having to defend, and that's the last thing I want when we are 8.5 minutes approximately of the race left, and the 5th place car is about 19 seconds ahead of me right now. So I have to go full speed as hard as I can to try to close that gap in 8.5 minutes. And the more I have to defend and not let this Porsche get around me, the more that defense is going to slow me down. 30 seconds later, he's still right on my tail, and you can see just how hard I have to defend. He gets a much better exit than me, getting a little bit of a slipstream draft. He tries to have a drag race to the next corner with me, He falls back, and I know why he fell back. He was trying to claim the inside up here, but I claimed the inside instead. But look at how much defending and taking the inside slows me down. It compromised my exit. I couldn't get the power down as early as I'd want to if I stayed on the outside before turning into that corner. And so this is hurting me. I do not want to have to defend against this black Porsche when I could be going a lot faster if I didn't have to take the inside of the corner early on to deny him the inside of all these corners, because it's just going to keep making me have a slower exit in every corner. And so this is making my last to first challenge a lot tougher. About a minute, 20 seconds later, we are behind that back marker again. We flash the lights at him, but lucky for us, he does go in the grass. That makes our job a heck of a lot easier. Now look on the bottom left of the screen. You see frantic jut and the Lamborghini is 18 seconds, now 16, 15, 14. That gap of how many seconds he is ahead is rapidly closing. Where is he? There he is. Look at that. He was in the grass. He must have severely messed up. And that gives us a free position. We are now up to 4th place. And remember, I said my goal is to land a podium finish. We have one more lap after this one to get that job done. But that Porsche is still, after all this, right on our tail. That is right up until about now. Watch the rearview mirror. He takes the carousel too aggressively, unsettles his car, and that was a big bonk. And we do end up finishing this one in 4th place. But that wasn't the podium finish we were looking for, so I joined another lobby, and this one is a 25-minute race. The last one was already a challenge. Now with 5 minutes less to work our way up, the difficulty is bumped up a notch. Will we be able to start in the back and finish in the top 3 in only 25 minutes? Green flag waves, and we are off. Just like last race, I'm short shifting and not carrying much speed down the front straight. I want to keep a safe distance away from the cars ahead heading into turn 1. I am expecting carnage and chaos up there. Let's see how this plays out. Into the braking zone. Moment of truth. Here we go. And to my absolute shock, every single one of us made it through in one piece and there wasn't any crashing. That was not expected. Now, if only we could all behave like that at every corner, you could call it a sim racer's paradise. I wasn't sure whether to go for a move here or not, overall just being careful. The goal this early on is just to survive more than anything. Claiming the inside line ahead of time for the hairpin. The Ferrari leaves the space, Mercedes shuts the door. And I'm not quite sure if he knew that he left his hazards on. Approaching the S's side by side. Ferrari fell back. I could have shut the door on the Audi if I noticed that earlier, but I took an awkward line through the S's, and to compensate, I am defending hard for the next turn. Audi has no choice but to try to work his way around. And there's a car off the track. Looks like the Audi will have the inside here if he outbrakes me, so I stay wide, but the Audi didn't go for it, so I hug the inside then, giving me a strong exit on the way out. Using that slipstream to my advantage, he still has his hazards on. And that slipstream makes me carry more speed from drafting, so I make the move before the chicane. Careful to avoid that yellow sausage. That curb can be very deadly if you touch the yellow. Entering the Nordschleife. Greeted with a sideways Lamborghini. Really sets the tone. The Audi's breathing down my neck down there. He backs out a little bit, but he goes for a big lunge. McLaren on the outside him sandwich. Taken out by the Audi. Already getting so tired of being taken out. A minute later, I'm finally seeing traffic again, but I lost so many positions from the contact. I go really deep here, but I managed to keep it out of the sand. I know I'm faster than everyone in this pack. I'm only back here because I was knocked off by the Audi. So now I have to fight my way back up already. Lots of carnage at this sharp left. Cars wrecking into each other. I go nice and slow to make it through alive. And that's always nice when they take each other out. Just as long as they're not taking me out. And that was the same sharp left that if you remember from last race I anticipated carnage there. but surprisingly, we all made it through last race. Not the same thing can be said about this race, as you just saw. Now watch this Lamborghini ahead. He's gonna brake where he shouldn't brake at all. Right there, and I do rear end him, and that's another big wreck. You can see the confusion in my face, thinking, what on earth are you doing? I wonder if it's just a lack of track knowledge. There's no reason whatsoever that he should have been hard on the brakes there. And I tried to react, but I couldn't slow down my car in time. It definitely caught me off guard. I tried my best to avoid it, but I'm not waiting after that contact because I do not feel at fault. If I felt at fault for rear-ending him, I would have waited and let him back around me. But moving on with the last of first challenge, we're catching back up with this McLaren pretty easily. It looks like he is turning into the turns very early, which is compromising his exit. So we're going to have to find a way to get around him. You can see right there, it looks like he just lets me around him, actually. So that was pretty courteous of him. He must have knew that I'm way faster than him, so he didn't want to hurt himself by defending and fighting me too hard when he knew that I'm just way faster. So that was a gentleman. That was really nice of him. Bad news is that I did pick up additional damage by rear-ending that Lamborghini pretty hard, and of course it wasn't even our fault, but that's even more damage, and I already sustained a lot of damage to our car with the collision with the Audi. So I checked my damage right there, but I see that it's only 2 seconds of damage, and I'm thinking, how on earth do I only have 2 seconds of damage after 2 really big crashes? So that is a sign of relief. That is a sigh of relief. And that's finally something that is actually going in my favor for once. So only 2 seconds of damage is not going to slow us down that much. And you can see P17 is the next car ahead. He is 4 seconds ahead right now. So let's see how quickly I can catch up to him, which I will skip ahead once I am to him. And actually, it looks like he is right there, so I don't need to skip ahead on the video. I'll just fast forward a bit. Blah, 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 and voila, now I am right behind him. Let's see how much of a fight this guy puts up. Right away, I can see he's tapping his brakes where he shouldn't. Again, he's doing the same there. This should be an easy one, just a matter of waiting for the right opportunity. It takes way too much curb. Line up a move. Drop a wheel in the grass, fighting the steering wheel, regain control. Let's try this again. Stay close behind him. Wait for another chance. I think about going for it, but that's too soon. Don't want to force my hand. It can be very tricky to overtake at this track, given how narrow it is, to give just one example why. You really have to wait for the right moments. If you're not patient and try to force your way through, it can go badly, as we saw with the Audi earlier. Goes over the curb again, sliding, and saves it. Nice save. But that means he's still in front, and I've got to get around this guy. You can see I briefly shook my head. I'm losing way too much time. I've got to get around him soon. McLaren in the grass. I move past the Mercedes, continuing the chase on this Ferrari. And I've got to go for a move soon. He's way slower than me, and if I don't get around him soon, there's no way I will land this podium finish. We are about to enter the long straight, and if I wanted to, I could stay close behind him and just slipstream draft my way past him on the straight. But I have a better idea. And here we go. Watch this. I predict he's not going to have the greatest exit in the world. So, I fall back, I leave some room for myself to get a good exit, and look at this. Look at how much of a better exit I got. That is a great exit. His, not so much. I got a way better exit than him, and it's time to say our goodbyes to Mr. Ferrari as I go flying way faster onto the straight. 6 minutes later, I catch up to the next group of cars. Already a McLaren spun was in the grass, but surely these next few cars ahead will be harder to pass, right? I mean, they were much further ahead than the Ferrari earlier. Shouldn't this be more of a challenge? Well, I guess not, since a back marker took out the Mercedes, which was for position, and the number 94 car slowed down a lot from the wreck ahead, and that's 2 more freebies. I know I've got to be careful approaching this back marker, though, as F1 Fish just murdered someone right before our very eyes, and he's not even on the same lap as us. I follow him for a while, his Porsche making friends with the grass a couple times, and the grass tells him that they don't hang out often enough. So, being a great friend, the Porsche decides to visit the grass a little more. And that's our ticket to finally have a clear road ahead of us again. On to the next lap. You can barely see P7 going through turn 1, so he is within eye range, but a 4-second gap. And we make our way around turn 1 ourselves. But wait, what's that? He must have used too much power on the exit, and he also made friends with the grass. The grass is being really social today. 2 minutes later, there's about a 6-second gap to P6, but he's also in the grass. What on earth is going on? Anyways, we're looking at about a 7-second gap to P5 with 4.5 minutes to go. Later on, about an 8-second gap to the next 2 cars ahead. Time gap's closing rapidly. Let's find out why. Well, they wrecked into each other. This is getting too easy. The next car ahead is the podium, but with less than 4 minutes left and an 8.5-second gap, I better haul some serious ass if I want to catch up to that podium. And I certainly do catch up as I'm right behind P3 as we approach the finish line, but I couldn't pull it off. And I do finish this one also in 4th, just like last race. Had I not been involved in so much bad luck, I feel like I would have finished in the podium easily. I could stop the video here, but I'm no quitter, and I came in here with a goal. Let's try this again. 25 minutes on the clock, just like last race. Pulling to the side, letting everyone pass. Green, green, here we go again.
Oh shit, here we go again.
You know the drill by now, keeping a nice distance into turn 1. Looks like I'm not the only one doing that. The McLaren seems to be doing kind of the same. Here we go, turn 1. There's a few cars off track already. More crashing ahead. Slowed down a lot, wasn't sure how bad the crashing would be. More crashing up ahead. Porsche off track. Horrendous rejoin by the Porsche. That almost ended in certain death. When I had my very first turn side by side with him, that happened. He took that turn as if I wasn't even there. Lucky for us, the impact only took himself out, so we continue on. Ferrari in the sand, that's a freebie. And finally a careful rejoin for once. Now going through the S's. Porsche coming in hot. He's gonna have the inside for this next turn. Peek at his username, by the way. Do you recognize him? He was the backmarker that murdered the Mercedes last race, and he was also struggling to keep his car on the track, so we gotta be careful around him. He is picking up a slipstream draft behind me on the back straight of the Grand Prix layout here, so he is gonna be carrying more speed, although the Porsche does lack top-end speed anyways, so we are having a drag race. I outbraked him into the chicane, so I do come out ahead on the chicane. Thankfully, we didn't go side by side. Now entering the Nordschleife, and we're greeted with a sideways Mercedes right off the bat. Already setting the tone, just like last race. Does this mean I'm going to get murdered at the same turn? Well, to my surprise, the Porsche actually behaves and he doesn't try to force a move. The Ferrari ahead was flirting with death, but he does get back on the gray stuff. It's much nicer on the gray stuff than it is in the grass, so I can't say that I blame him. Looking crowded ahead. Spinning Ferrari. Get around him safe. That's another freebie. 20 seconds later, this is where things get messy. So you're supposed to take this next corner flat. The McLaren actually brakes, and the Audi had to brake to avoid hitting him then. So that slows both of them down. I'm being slow behind them, being careful. Porsche coming in really hot. I'm being careful behind them. Now watch this. McLaren in the grass, and the Porsche takes me out. I told you guys we would have to watch out for him. He really had no business driving like that when there are two very slow cars ahead. It may have seemed like I turned to the right, but that's because the McLaren briefly went off track to the left, which might give the illusion that I was turning right. I also couldn't be fully to the left. That would risk collecting into the McLaren that was in the grass. In my opinion, the Porsche was being way too reckless in that scenario. This made us drop down 8 positions. Not off to a good start at all. A minute later, there's a pretty banged up McLaren that I just got around easily. He definitely had alignment issues. There's also a yellow flag ahead. Someone else must have wrecked. And I do notice the yellow flag. Let's find out where the wreck car is. There's the wreck car, so that's another freebie. And back to green. At the carousel, I had to brake to avoid hitting him. That's how slow he's going. And you saw me throw my hand up. I'm not a happy camper being stuck behind someone this slow, but I get it. This track has only been on console for 2 days. He might be unfamiliar with it, but we definitely do have to get around him, so I do go for a move right up here after he took too much curb, to the side of him, leaving enough space. And he turns into my car for no reason at all. We weren't even going through a corner when he turned right, but thankfully it took himself out. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Near the end of the lap, Ferrari off track, rejoins safe, but he's looking pretty banged up, which reminds me to check my own damage. Not happy to see 22 seconds worth of damage, and I knew he'd be slow, but I underestimated just how slow he is, so I nearly lost it trying to avoid hitting him. That ruined my exit onto the 1.9 mile long straight. And on top of that, my car is severely damaged from being in 3 wrecks, and one of them being a huge wreck at that. All this damage is going to make me much slower, and I'm already losing hope for a podium finish this time around. 2 minutes later, there's a McLaren in the grass on the left. That's another freebie. Now, if you remember that corner I said to stay flat on, well, the Mercedes brakes there, but I stay flat, so I'm carrying way more speed, gaining on him rapidly. To the side of him. McLaren parked on the track on the left there. Must have wrecked really badly. That's another freebie, and I got around the Mercedes. So that's 2 positions up. Coming up to the carousel. Watch this. I nearly lose control completely of the car. That took everything I had to save that one. Near the end of lap 2, I'm still behind the same Ferrari, but he brakes without straightening his steering over the bump, and he gets introduced to a new friend named Mr. Barry R. And that is another freebie.
Kaboom! Hard luck, Dave. Always knew you were a bit weak.
3 minutes of the race left, sideways Audi in front. Let's get around him safely. Can this race go any worse by this point? That's even more damage. I'm P6 with less than 3 minutes left of the race. By this point, I pretty much am accepting there's no way I will land a podium finish. And if there's a slight chance I can finish this one in the top 5, I will be very happy. Well, look who's ahead of us now. That same Porsche that caused our biggest wreck of the whole day and took out a back marker last race. I sure would hate if something were to happen to him. Oh, that's a shame. But even better, the next 2 cars up have wrecked into each other. As we approach the first one from the wreck, he's limping around, car took heavy damage. I brake to avoid hitting him. He keeps saving slides. But here's a big slide. To the side of him, we get around safely. Can we secure the position? He tries to go around the outside, but that's a long way around. And we do secure the position, but next up is P3 and another damaged car in the sand. All we have to do is get around him, and there's P3. I can barely believe it. But look in the rear view, they wreck again. You gotta wonder, was that revenge? Was it on purpose? We weren't there to see the full story, but whatever went down, it didn't seem pretty. But regardless, after everything I went through in this race, I'm in 3rd place right now. All I have to do is bring it home, and we're near the end of the final lap right now. I gotta say, out of all 3 of these races, this one was when I least expected a successful podium. considering how much terrible luck I had. But luck was on my side on this final lap. Crossing the finish line, we did it, baby. We finally got the podium. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to smash that like button and please consider subscribing as I have plenty of more content on the way. Race fast, race clean, and I'll see you all in the next video.